Hello, comrades. Commissar Bro here today with a preview of the early alpha version of Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr. That's right. So I'm going to go ahead and warn you. There's a huge warning on this one because a lot of what you see is incredibly placeholders. Just look at this heavy bolter. That is quite clearly not done. So a lot of this game is not complete, but I've been playing it today, and it was a completely pleasant surprise to wake up to. It's absolutely wonderful. Currently, the character creator is very limited, and the overall amount of things you can do is limited right now. There's mostly nothing but placeholders, but you can see the makings of a really cool game. And I'm really excited for it. Right now, the only playable class is the Crusader. They had an earlier build, which was far more fine-tuned, and it had better graphics, better optimized, but you could only play set-piece missions with set-piece characters. Whereas now, you can basically get new equipment, get new items, and so on and so forth. As you can see, there's the star map right over there. There's a store right here where you can purchase new goods with the money that you get from completing missions. Again, there's a bunch of placeholders here or there for various vendors, or not really vendors, but like crafting options that will be available in the game when it comes out. To the far right of the room from how we're facing right now, there's an administratum castle. Basically, you can go to the main fortress of the administratum, and as you can see here, this is kind of the galaxy map. This is one system within a subsector within a larger sector, and you can kind of look at all the different tabs we have here at the bottom. Keep in mind, this was pre-recorded already. From my playthrough, I was having issues, and I'm not actually going to be able to show you gameplay from my perspective. I'm actually going to be showing you gameplay from another YouTuber, specifically Chapter Master Valric. If you're familiar with him, he's a great YouTuber. Check out his channel for sure, and especially show him some support. And thanks for even letting me use his gameplay. But anyway. As you can see here, this is the main sector. There's a bunch of areas that aren't even unlocked. There's areas beyond those areas that have to be unlocked. From my understanding, this universe is massive that you're going to be able to occupy. You can see that there's various factions, Imperial factions, the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Adeptus Administratum, so on and so forth. And basically, you have systems within each one of these sectors, or each one of these subsectors that you can go to that have missions available. See, just going into this one subsector, we have 4 additional systems you can go to, each with their own planets, all of which you can pretty much go to. There's missions to do in each one of them. So overall, it's a massive game. Even for this very early access build, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of missions. A couple of the missions don't work, which is just as to be expected. So far, I've only run into one mission in particular that just does not work. Every time I try to load it, it just freezes straight up. But honestly, for how many of the missions work, and how many enemy types there are, and how cool the actual gameplay is, it's really not that big of a deal. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of different types of missions. Purge missions are pretty much just you go in and you kill whatever you see. Then you've got like hunt missions where you kill 3 main enemies, like powerful enemies. And I haven't played Assassination yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Assassination missions are you go in and you wipe out one really powerful foe. As you can see, you get rewards for completing the missions, experience, credits, which you can use to buy more goods. Basically, the screen for the various skills in the game is redonkulous. But before I talk about that, this is something I really want to show off that I'm a huge fan of. And sorry for the lag and for it not looking too great, but I love the physics destruction in this game. It's so cool. Watch me take down this pillar. Like when I just start mowing it down. So you just chip off pieces on it. And like the bullets just rip it away until eventually the health bar goes and bam, it crumbles into thousands of pieces. And literally all, like anything you shoot at in this game pretty much does that. And it's absolutely wonderful. Probably one of the best little destruction systems I've seen in a long time. And definitely the best one I've ever seen in a Warhammer system, because, or a Warhammer game, because normally they don't really go into that much detail. And like you can see, each weapon leaves a different type of hole or crater. It leaves vestiges, essentially the plasma cannon here, as we've blasted it into that pillar up to the top left. There's traces of the plasma still on the pillar, and you can see the blue from it. And on the ground where we just shot, there's still the blue traces of plasma left behind. Moving on through each level, this game operates like Diablo. And again, you're going to see it's kind of laggy for me. Again, my system is not well prepared to play this game. Hence why I'm going to show you some gameplay from Valric instead, because it's going to be way better. But essentially the game operates like Diablo. It's an action RPG where you kind of go through these levels with these various different mission types. I love how the guns just rip people to shreds. You get completely surrounded really quickly. There's melee in the game, so you'll see thunder hammers and power swords and chain swords and so on and so forth. Just from what I've seen so far in the game, the main weapon types that you've got 3 different classes of the Crusader. And of that, you've got a power sword and a shield combo. You've got a thunder hammer combo. You have, for a different class, you've got the guy I'm using who has a heavy bolter and a plasma cannon. And then you have one more called the assault gunner, which comes with an auto gun, and I'm not sure what their other weapon is. So you basically have 6 different weapon types just choosing out in the early build right now. And that's just the early build. The Warhammer universe is full of crazy different weapons. And because they're going with the whole Diablo thing, you're going to see way more like legendary weapons and relic weapons and all sorts of rare and uncommons. Just killing bosses right now in the game already drops legendary or rare items and uncommon items, which you can be equipped to your Inquisitor to make him even more powerful. As it stands, this game is looking really, really cool, and I'm really excited about it. Just playing this little tidbit right now is really cool. Of course, it could use with a bit more polish. Again, it's still very early alpha. Like, again, the amount of placeholders you can see shows that it's definitely nowhere near being ready for the market. Now, I'm kind of under the understanding that the game is supposed to be released in May, which is only 3 months away from now. So that's kind of a tall order, I think, from where the game looks like it's at right now. Again, the build that I'm showing you right now is a far more cleaner build, which was actually the first build they put out. But again, it was set to set pieces, and you could only play with these certain heroes and so on and so forth. They were already maxed out or whatever. But it does show you some of the other main class types in the game, because you actually have 3. You've got the Crusader, which has 3 additional subclasses. You've got the Assassin, which has 3 additional subclasses. And then you've got the Psyker, which has 3 additional subclasses. And the first part of this gameplay is showing off the Assassin. Basically, my understanding being kind of more of like how the Demon Hunter was in Diablo 3. And I imagine the Psyker being kind of more like using the powers of the warp to attack enemies, so probably more of kind of like a battle mage type thing is what I would think. Still using bolters if needed, but being heavily focused on the various warp powers that he can spawn on his enemies. But again, I'm not 100% sure on that one. I haven't seen that. The only one I've actually really played with is the Crusader, which I can already tell I really like it, because the Crusader operates kind of like a Space Marine. He's a really tough son of a bitch who can sit there and take a hit and dish out a lot of damage too. So it's a really cool start. You've also got many additional paths that you can go down, these various skill paths, like the Adeptus Astartes, basically it even describes it as being a bastardized version straight out of the Codex Astartes. Basically, you have some kind of sort of like Space Marine training, essentially, is what you've got. So you're kind of this tough guy who can just beat the shit out of these, these heretics that you come across and your missions to purge and whatnot. So right now, the way the game looks, it looks really cool and incredibly promising. Even just this early build is a lot of fun to play, and it's a lot of fun to experiment with. Again, I'm a huge fan of the physics system right off the bat. Like, it's so cool just melting shit. Like, straight up tearing it down and just blasting shit away. It's great. Absolutely great. Leaving holes wherever you go. Even if you travel around these big, huge maps. These huge, like, ships and naval bases and so on and so forth. Like, you can't help but just notice that when you go back to an area you've already been, if you have to backtrack for some reason, you're going to still see those craters there, or you're going to see the rubble from a pillar that you just completely wasted in a firefight. And you're still going to see, like, gibbed opponents and whatnot. It's really cool. It's really cool. And for $40, it doesn't seem like a bad pre-order at all. But again, that's if you're into that type thing. Again, I'm a total Warhammer fanboy, so you can imagine that this is right up my alley. And especially with me recently getting into Diablo 3, this is exactly what the doctor ordered. But anyway, this has been Commissar Bro. Thanks so much for watching and listening to me rant on about this game. You should really check it out if you're interested in Warhammer, or you're a fan of action RPGs like The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing or Diablo and so on. Then you'll probably find this pretty cool. Again, it feels meatier to me than Diablo. Definitely not as smooth right now. It's still very early, and now that's one thing to mention. It's 100% possible that the developers can mess this up. But from what I've seen, I played just a little bit of The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing, and I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was bad at all. And honestly, this seems like a natural progression for them in terms of the gameplay that I played in the very first Van Helsing game, as opposed to how this one operates now. It seems like they're really kind of hitting the stride. So, I mean, personally, I'm kind of excited. This looks pretty good, and hopefully it won't be as much of a disappointment as some of the other Warhammer games that have come out lately. I'm specifically kind of looking at Eternal Crusade, and because that wasn't all that great in my opinion, which was a shame because I was super excited for that game. So much so that I mentioned it in one of my Christmas specials a few years ago, and I pre-ordered, I bought into it and everything, and it didn't turn out quite being what it was supposed to be. But that game also was promising some really big things. It had some big shoes to fill, and this game, I believe, is already showing us that it's doing what it said it would do. It's moving along at a wonderful pace, as far as I can tell. And the game itself is just, it plays well. It plays very smoothly. It obviously needs a lot of work. They basically, the main things I feel like they need to do right now is they just need to work on these bugs, because there's a couple bugs here or there, mainly crashing, which is pretty normal for an early access, well, very early alpha game. Not even early access. Generally, early access is like a beta build, and that's what you're playing, and it's smoothing it out. But this is very early alpha in terms of the release, from what I can see. So, yeah, for how early it is, it's incredibly promising. I mean, give it a few more months, and this son of a bitch is going to be... It's going to be wonderful, so I can't wait to actually play the finished product. Anyway, this has been CB. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys stop by next time.